What's up, basketball fans? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got one of the most exciting rumors floating around the NBA right now. You read the title, and yes, it's true. Kyrie Irving and LaMelo Ball could be headed to the Chicago Bulls in a shocking double deal that could completely reshape the future of this storied franchise. If you've been following the NBA closely over the past few years, you know how much drama and intrigue surround both Kyrie and LaMelo, but when you put them together on one team, especially with the Chicago Bulls, the possibilities are mind-blowing. So let's break this down, shall we? First, let's start by taking a step back and looking at the current state of the Chicago Bulls. The team has been through its ups and downs in recent seasons. From the high hopes of the DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine backcourt to the struggles of building a true contender around them, Chicago has been stuck in NBA purgatory. They're not bad enough to tank for top draft picks, but they're also not quite good enough to challenge for a championship. There's been a lot of inconsistency with the roster, and while DeRozan remains one of the most efficient scorers in the league and LaVine continues to impress with his athleticism and perimeter shooting, the Bulls have lacked that true superstar playmaking presence, a guy who can run the offense and take the pressure off their scorers. Enter Kyrie Irving and LaMelo Ball, two of the most electrifying, dynamic talents in the game today, and two players who could completely transform the Bulls' identity. Let's talk about Kyrie Irving for a moment. The former NBA champion has built a career around his jaw-dropping ball handling, his clutch performances, and his ability to score at will. While he's been one of the most gifted point guards of his generation, Kyrie's career has been anything but smooth. After a memorable stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he hit one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history, he spent time in Boston and then moved on to Brooklyn, where he formed an explosive trio with Kevin Durant and James Harden. But despite the talent, the Nets never could fully unlock their potential in the postseason, and after a series of controversial off-court incidents and a roller coaster relationship with the team, Kyrie was traded to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, with his contract expiring soon and rumors swirling about his future, the Mavs are faced with the possibility of losing Kyrie, one of their most talented players, if they can't find a way to make their relationship work. What better way to shake things up than for the Bulls to swoop in and offer Kyrie a new start in Chicago? If Kyrie ends up there, his elite scoring and ball handling would be exactly what the Bulls need to elevate their offense. Just imagine him working in tandem with DeRozan and LaVine in crunch time moments, with the defense scrambling to stop them on every possession. The Bulls would have one of the most dangerous backcourts in the NBA. But Kyrie is just part of this deal. Let's talk about LaMelo Ball, one of the most exciting young players in the league today. LaMelo has been lighting it up in Charlotte since his rookie season. His flashy passing, court vision, and ability to create for his teammates are all next level. LaMelo has quickly become one of the most entertaining players to watch in the NBA, and his rise as a potential future face of the league has been meteoric. However, despite his individual brilliance, the Charlotte Hornets have struggled mightily in terms of building a competitive team around him. The Hornets have been stuck in a perpetual rebuilding mode, and it seems like their roster is miles away from competing for a playoff spot, let alone a championship. LaMelo is locked in for the long term with the Hornets, but there have been increasing whispers that if the team doesn't start showing more promise, he might eventually ask for a trade. This is where the Chicago Bulls come into play again. LaMelo could be the long-term point guard solution the Bulls have been searching for. While Kyrie offers instant star power, LaMelo brings the promise of sustained success with his playmaking, vision, and maturity on the court. If the Bulls manage to acquire him, they would have a young, dynamic floor general who could lead the team for the next decade alongside players like LaVine and DeRozan. And with his growing confidence as a shooter, LaMelo could also help stretch the floor, opening up more opportunities for his teammates. Now, here's the crazy part: how could these trades happen? The logistics of these deals are complex, but they're not entirely out of the realm of possibility. The Bulls have some serious assets they could use in trade talks. For example, players like Patrick Williams, who's shown promise as a defensive-minded forward, and Kobe White, a talented guard with scoring ability, could be appealing to both the Mavericks and the Hornets. Chicago also has future draft picks that could sweeten the pot, offering both teams a chance to build for the future. The Mavs, in particular, could benefit from adding young pieces like Williams and White to complement Luka Doncic. And while the Hornets might be hesitant to part with LaMelo, they might see an opportunity to add a veteran presence like Nikola Vucevic, who could provide solid minutes in the frontcourt. It's not hard to envision a package that works for both sides. And while some fans might be skeptical about this trade coming to fruition, the current state of the NBA, where teams are willing to take risks in order to win, now makes this scenario far more plausible than it may seem at first glance. Let's talk about the on-court implications of this move for the Bulls. If they were able to land both Kyrie Irving and LaMelo Ball, they would instantly have one of the most dynamic lineups in the league. Imagine this starting five: LaMelo Ball running the point, with Kyrie Irving at shooting guard, DeMar DeRozan at small forward, Zach LaVine at shooting guard, and Nikola Vucevic at center. That's a serious starting five, folks. You've got one of the best playmakers in the league in LaMelo, with Kyrie's scoring ability and elite ball handling, combined with DeRozan's mid-range mastery and LaVine's elite scoring ability. The Bulls would be stacked in terms of offensive firepower. But they wouldn't just be a high-scoring team, they'd also have a ton of versatility. LaMelo and Kyrie can both defend well enough at their positions, and the Bulls' frontcourt with Vucevic, Williams, and others would provide enough rim protection to hold their own on defense. The Bulls could go from a team in the middle of the pack to a legit contender in the Eastern Conference. They'd be able to compete with teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, Boston Celtics, and Miami Heat, teams that currently dominate the East. And if the Bulls manage to build chemistry and stay healthy, they could even make a deep playoff run. But the question on everyone's mind is, would this really happen? Could a team like the Bulls, who are in the middle of a rebuild, actually pull off such a high-profile deal? The answer is complicated, but the reality is that it's not entirely impossible. The NBA is full of surprises, and teams are always looking for ways to improve quickly. The Bulls may be in a position where they have to go all in for the future, and adding two stars like Kyrie and LaMelo could be the fastest way to get back into the mix of championship contenders. On the flip side, if the trade does go through, the Dallas Mavericks and Charlotte Hornets would find themselves in very different situations. Losing Kyrie Irving would leave the Mavs in a tough spot, as Luka Doncic would once again be left to shoulder most of the load on his own. The Mavs would need to go all in on building around Luka, and losing a player like Kyrie would create a significant hole in their roster. For the Hornets, trading LaMelo Ball would be a huge blow, but they might get some solid assets in return, potentially setting themselves up for a brighter future, depending on what they receive in the deal. It's all about risk and reward, and for both teams, this could be a make-or-break move. All in all, this double trade deal, Kyrie Irving and LaMelo Ball to the Chicago Bulls, would be one of the most electrifying and surprising moves in recent NBA history. It would shake up the Eastern Conference, bring excitement to Chicago, and force the rest of the NBA to take notice. Do I think it's going to happen? Well, I wouldn't rule it out entirely. In the NBA, anything can happen, and when you have two star players potentially on the move, you better believe teams like the Bulls will be knocking on doors to make it happen. So what do you think? Could Kyrie and LaMelo really end up in Chicago? Would this trade make the